Greetings again, brothers and sisters within the Kingdom of England, Empire of Albion. This is your brother Dion Day Belmont from the illustrious noble house of Belmont. And like we say today here at the Third Temple English Church of England, as well as here at the noble house of Belmont, it is a beautiful time to be alive. And part of being members, brothers and sisters, part of the same congregation, part of the same religious order, part of the same society, we all must know the same rules. We all must know the same words, and we all must understand the definitions of how these words are defined and how to properly use them. Because the reason why we are dealing with so much issues and so much calamity within our walking daily lives is because of issues when it comes down to communication. People today just don't know how to communicate. They utilize their words erroneously. They put them in context that most of the time only they understand, especially if they're speaking to foreigners who may know the English language, but they don't know the words they're utilizing, especially if the words they're using are in a denotative form. So we have to go back to the drawing board. We must go back to the origin of words and utilize them not only by how etymology used them, but also how law sees them. And when we don't realize that everyone you encounter, especially most of the time in the professional world, understand that you must utilize words based off of how they are defined. And when you're dealing with law enforcement, we're dealing with federal agencies, etc., who are considered the overseers of your daily life. It's best for you to know who you are, and it's best for you to know how the words that they're using are properly defined within their reality, because you are part of that reality. So ignorance of that is no excuse. So once again, welcome to this beautiful Sabbath day. This is mostly a fellowship lesson, and it's not actually work. So hopefully those of you who are listening, who are chosen to hear this information, you put it to the in the place that it's meant to be the most, and that's inside your heart. So with that being said, let's get started. The website that I'm going to use for this lesson is going to be the various sites that you've seen us use before. The first one here on the list is Cornell Law School. And what this lesson is talking about is heirs of the body. The body needs heir. And when we're talking about heirs of the body, we're talking about those lineal descendants of the original grantor of that surname. And in this case, I'm going to utilize me as an example. My surname is Belmont. I wasn't given this name by random or by choice. It was gifted to me at birth. And it was not gifted, and it wasn't by my mother or father's choice. It was gifted to them, or in this case, my mother, because I inherited my surname from my mother's maiden name, from her mother's maiden name, and from my grandmother's, which is her mother's, um, not her mother's maiden name, but from her father, because my grandmother's mother's maiden name is Owens, but her father's or her father's name or paternal name is Belmont. Now, what I did was I did research to go back in time to find out where we come from in regards to not only the lineage, but also the origin of the name and how to properly use it, if there was any other variations, etc. So therefore, I can correct the record moving forward, because many of us is going to find other people who look just like us who are doing this great work, who may have the same name, just in a different spelling, and may think that they're not related. But when you come down to the understanding of English, the English language, linguistically, they didn't always spell surnames the same. Sometimes you're going to see it spelled with a missing letter or added letter or a different arrangement or from a different language, but the definition still suffice as the same, and another language will still corroborate with these people have some type of genealogical ties or ancestral. So heirs of the body in law means heirs of the body refers to the lineal descendants of one's bloodline, such as children or grandchildren, until such time as there is no direct descendants. Pause. So this means that you, as long as you still are breathing and creating, every last one of your heirs are still connected to the original grantor. In this case, your grandmother, or excuse me, your great 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 grandmother or great 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 grandfather, or going back all the way to the time when they actually came about and utilizing surnames, which we can go back to the 9th and 10th century, and some of us before. Surnames came to become a norm when it was introduced by the Normans during the Norman conquest in 1066. But like I said, many of our families actually had surnames prior to the Norman conquest, because once again, some of our families were those Normans, whether we want to accept it or not. But we have become mixed up, took on different customary practices from the foreigners, what eventually became practices that us as English people today recognize as part of our customary practice. All right. And customary to mean doing something long enough over time without even having to have it written down in record. And in this case, like I said, we don't actually have to go down to the history and understanding of the surnames to know that they've been around ever since time immemorial. All right. And time immemorial is the year 1189, which was during the reign of who? King Richard I from the Royal House of Plantagenet. So I'm going to reread. Heirs of the body refers to the lineal descendants of one's bloodline, such as children or grandchildren, until such time as there are no direct descendants. The term is intended to distinguish between a person's natural descendants and a person's other heirs, such as a spouse. Pause. So natural descendants mean, like I said, from the blood. You had to be coming from the blood, not someone who got married in this case, like they said, your spouse. So as I trace, and like I said, I have to utilize me as an example. I received my surname from my mother. My mother received our surname from her mother, which is my grandmother. My grandmother received it from her father, which was which would be my great grandfather. Her father received it from his father, which would be my great great grandfather. He received it from his father, which would be my great 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 grandfather, and he received it from his father, and so on and so forth. And during this time, based off of the time of succession or passing down lineal information, I can understand that when it comes down to my surname, at least by the time of me getting to my great 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 grandfather, who was born in 1810 in South Carolina, I know who was the operating parties in regards to the government, as well. I know what was taking place historically, so I can put it in the historical context, because surnames prior to so-called 1783, you were given them based off of like I said, it's inheritance. You couldn't just go around and just claim other people's names, because once again, you'll be able to claim ownership of someone's property. And historically, we all know that you can't claim anyone's property as your own, even to modern day times. You can't do that. So this is the reason why it was important to know who you are and where you come from, because you want to know what was yours and what was passed down to you. So we're correcting the record. The only way for you to correct the record, you have to know who you are. In this case, heirs of the body. And so I'm going to show you who I am first, and you can follow suit, because we all can walk this path together, but you have to look at your paper and then follow those who are showing you the guidance as an example for what you need to do. All right. So once again, for those of you who just now get an opportunity to hear my voice, check out the channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Third Temple English Church of England, headed by the King of England, the true de jure King of England, King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet, because we are those long lost heirs. We are the remnant who have been rebirthed, or in this case, re-earthed, and we're coming up to the light of day to show you who we are, so therefore we can correct the record to bring peace, harmony, and balance back onto planet Earth. All right, so As they say, the heirs of the body, as if the bloodline runs out, the property will revert to the nearest relative traced back to the original owner. I repeat, if the bloodline runs out, so the fact that you're alive, that means that the bloodline didn't run out, which gives you the right to do what? To inherit what those who come before you pass down to you. But you must be them. You must come in their name and likeness. You can't come in something else. You can't come in a different form. Can't come in a different name. Can't come in a different mindset. Can't come in a different ideology. Can't come in a different belief. You have to come in their name and likeness. So that's the reason why imagery is important. There's a reason why knowing what your predecessors wore and looking like them is important, because that would give you reassurance. That would give you the courage that you need for you to walk and embody them. And as you do that, trust and believe they're walking with you because you are them. So once again, heirs of the body needs heir. Now we're going to talk about specifically what body needs heir, because we're utilizing, or I'm utilizing HEIRS and congruent to AIR for breath. Why is this something that you should understand? Because now we're going to start talking about heirs of the body as being part of a body politic. And the body politic that we're speaking about in this in this case, is the king's body politic. And for the king's body politic to exist, it need heir. In this case, heirs of the body, which you may potentially be. If you're chosen to hear my voice and to see this information, it may be you. It truly may be you. That's the reason why they say, don't throw your Bible away. That's the reason why it was said that you have an inheritance underneath your surnames. Many people threw their surnames away. They changed it. They're underneath new ideologies, new belief systems. And that's fine if that's the walk that they want to walk. But those of you who want to go back home, that's where I'm going. This is how you do it. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so here as well, I want to um keep it real with you. We use anything and everything that has been created for us to keep the narrative clean, right, correct, and concise. For those of you who don't understand what that means, it means that we are putting everything together from a lineal perspective, utilizing technology, utilizing everything that's at our disposal in the modern world that can tie us back to information to the ancient world. So we're utilizing, which they have today, is what AI overview have done to help compartmentalize the information that I want to be able to bring to the forefront to teach you. And so that is, 1 second. The king's body politic. And the concept of the king's body politic is important to know, because this is what us heirs have to return to. We have to return back to the king's body politic. All right, so with that said, says the concept of the king's two bodies refers to the distinction between a king's physical, that's his mortal body, the body natural, and his symbolic, the immortal body representing the office of monarchy, and the state, that's what I'm talking about, the body politic. So as us as being heirs, we're part of the state, aka the king's body politic of the English crown. So you have to return to that state of mind of the body. And that state of mind of the body is the mindset that we all had incongruent going back to the ancient times or our predecessors. So to make all of this work, we all have to be on one accord. According to what King Edgar ordained, he ordained that we all must be of one sound mind, one body. The king is the head, the people is the body. The body moves in tandem with the head. The head makes sure that the body is protected and everyone within it is moving in accordance to what they were set to operate as. So once again, it says the body politic is considered a metaphysical entity that continues even after the king's death, ensuring the continuity of the monarchy. So even as kings have come and gone, it means that there's going to be a continued line of succession, even if you don't even see the king. The body politic is always there. The king's throne or the king's body or his immortal body is always there. So like a more detailed breakdown, like it says, the body natural, this is the king's physical human body, which is subject to limitations of mortality and human nature. It could be sick, it can die, it can make mistakes. Once again, that's how humans operate. We make mistakes. We're going to die one day. We get sick. Like I said, there's limitations to these physical vessels, but there's also rules on how to operate and keep it, in good shape. And when you don't follow those rules, of course, you're going to have an early expiration date. So the body politic says this represents the king's office and authority of the monarchy continuing even after the king's death. It embodies the role of the king as the head of the state and is often seen as the mystical or spiritual entity. So our king, once again, is the head of the body politic. We're the body, we're the people within that body politic. We make up the state. All right. So continuity of the monarchy said the concept of the king's two bodies allows for the continuity of the monarchy even after the death of the king. With the phrase, the king is dead, long live the king, reflecting this. So once again, the physical monarch in his human form may pass away, but his immortal form, i.e. body politic, it lives forever. It lives forever, which means if the body politic lives forever, then that means the people who are within that body politic lives forever. So there has never been a time that the people of the Kingdom of England has not been here in existence, even here in the territory that we call the British American colonies, even after the Treaty of Paris of 1783. We have always been here. The king, we may not know he was here, even though we had de facto kings sitting in positions of so-called power, utilizing the rights and the prerogatives of the English king. But that does not negate the fact that the king body politic, the true de jure English king body politic, is still here. We are still here. We just need to rise in understanding and conscience. And that's the reason why the true de jure king, who is now King Clifford Jefferson from the Royal House of Plantagenet, has returned to bring this information to the forefront. And as us, as being messengers, as being kin, as being family, as being angels, is our obligation to take this information to the four corners of the world to reinvigorate and revitalize those long lost heirs via their DNA, by them hearing our words, hearing this message, by them drinking this water, by them now bringing themselves back to the proper state of being, because now they're no longer thirsty in regards to understanding who they are. They now will know. And they now know where to go back home to get the nourishment so they can continue to keep sustaining themselves while they come and live the life and do their obligation as angels on earth. And so it says, in medieval political theology, Ernest Kantorovic's book, The King's Two Bodies, explores this concept in detail, tracing its origins and evolution through history. Metaphysical versus collective. The body politic can be viewed either as immortal physical entity that transfers from one monarch to the next, or as a collective entity encompassing all of the people of the kingdom with the king as its head. I hope you brothers and sisters understand what this is saying, because it's letting you know, once again, that as long as we as a people exist, as long as there's an heir, because we're going to go back to what? Heirs of the body. The heirs of the body refers to the lineal descendants of one's bloodline, such as children or grandchildren, until such time as there are no direct descendants. The term is intended to distinguish between a person's natural descendants, like the kings, and the person's other heirs, such as a spouse. If the bloodline runs out, the property will revert to the nearest relative traced back to the original owner. So once again, as us being heirs of the body, we are returning back to the king's body politic, which is what? The English crown. And we have a king who is the head of that body politic of the people, which once again, they told we are a collective entity that encompass the whole entire kingdom. And the historical context, before we move on, it says the idea of the king's two bodies plays a significant role in medieval political thought, particularly in relation to the concept of divine right of kings. So we still do believe in a divine right of kings. This is something that our ancestors believed going all the way back to ancient antiquity, that we understood going all the way back to the stars, and how we know the stars have a significant effects on what's taking place here on the physical realm. As above, so below, and as within, so without. So once again, here we're going to teach you the truth. We're going to teach you the full totality of understanding that you need, so therefore you can be reassured that this is the way home, especially if you feel that you are one of the chosen ones. And when we speak about chosen ones, we're not speaking in an abstract sense. We're speaking in a concrete form, which you are physically doing something to prove that you was one of the ones that was picked out of your bloodline. In this case, you was one of the heirs of the body who your ancestors picked to come back this day and time, for therefore you can be one of the ones that is counted amongst the living in regards to bringing your family back to full life from out of the land of the dead. And yes, the West is known as the land of the dead, because our brothers and sisters are in complete darkness and they have no idea regarding who they are. But it said that Ra also stops in the land of the dead to do what? To bring the dead alive, to resurrect you, to bring you back up to see the light of day. So you can come out of this sarcophagus, or you can come out of this low vibrating mental state, because you don't know who you are and you don't know how to properly operate. So you lost your moral compass. And when you lose your moral compass, you start doing what? Degenerative things, things that have you losing your structure, things that have you losing your identity, things that eventually is going to have you perish away because of lack of knowledge. So with that being said, let's continue. Now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about the King's two body politics, and we're going to come from Edmund Plodens in regards to his report about the King's two body politics. So it says, the author's excavation of these threads was not without controversy. Among Edmund Plodens' reports, for instance, was a dispute over whether or not King Edward VI held the Duchy of Lancaster as private property or whether it belonged to the crown. All right, pay attention. It says the lawyer argued the latter. The king has in him two bodies, a body natural and a body politic. His body natural, if it to be considered in itself, is a body mortal, subject to all infirmities that come by nature or accident, to the imbecility of infancy or old age. But his body politic is a body that cannot be seen or handled, consisting of policy and government, and constituted for the direction of the people and the management of the public will. And this body is utterly void in infancy and old age, and other natural defects and imbecilities, which the body natural is subject to. And for this cause, what the king does in his body politic cannot be invalidated or frustrated by any disability in his natural body. So what this said, once again, that the king's natural body and his body politic, his physical body may decay. It may deal with disabilities. It's going to deal with the issues that the human physical body deals with. But the body politic, you can't touch it. Like they say, Christ's church isn't built by human hands. So the king's body politic isn't built by the hands of man. The king's body politic is immaterial. The king's body politic is forever. So therefore, we may get old, the physical body itself, but the king's body politic, in this case, the English crown or the kingdom of England, it's forever. It can never die. It can never wither away. So only thing they were able to do was bring it out of your mind, have you forget about it, have you think that these places or this time in history, it can't be resurrected now. If you understood how important that this information is, you will really, truly start trying to seek the salvation. And like they say, salvation can only be found in the church. True salvation. And I'm not speaking about their church. I'm talking about the English church for the English people. We're here for the English people. We're the English church for the English people. And our congregation is a scholarly congregation, which means we deal with intelligence. We are an intellectual people because we know through intelligence is what brings peace. Through understanding, which would bring harmony. And anyone who was outside of this immaterial body politic will be suffering all the calamities that our body politic or our people were suffering prior to us understanding the laws of what King Alfred brought in regards to the Mosaic Code, the Christian Code of Ethics, the Anglo-Saxon laws that existed prior to us being invaded by Vikings. And what he had to do was he had to bring them all together to make them what we call and understand and recognize as the common law of England today. And that's the reason why us as messengers, is our obligation to come and teach the remnants, the heirs, those of you who are ready to truly come home and live in peace, who want to be able to set your houses in order, but it won't be set in order based on your own fruition. You must come back to the house, to the body politic, where there's a multitude. Like they say, within our Father house, there are many mansions. So you must come home where all of us are here. And I'm going to show one other thing coming from the Pew Research Institute. Can't remember what the acronym stands for. In regards to religion and people, how they operate when it comes down to them either being part of a congregation or them not being part of a congregation, but yet still claim to be religiously inclined. So I'm going to pull that up here momentarily. But once again, understand too that the king's body politic is a religious society, because the Kingdom of England, we are still founded upon biblical principles. We are known as God's people. All right, so you must come back and understand that God's people, we're part of what we call a church state. not the Roman Catholic Church, even though they had ties and were in England and things like that. But we're going back before Rome, back to the original church when it was simple and easy and things were done according to not only what our ancestors had set up, but according to cosmic law, according to astrological understanding, things that were passed on back eons ago, before man even was even writing, which once again we'll call these customary practices. All right, so let's go ahead and get to that Pew research, and then I'm going to go ahead and end this the Sabbath lesson in regards to why heirs of the body need to return, because the body needs heir, and this body is the English body, or the English body politic, or the English crown body. All right, the Kingdom of England. We need the heirs, and many of you have no idea who you are because you haven't been put onto the path of initiation to bring yourself back into full life. Because you have to burn off all of those inferiority or um, those issues that are within you that have you not been able to work with your counterparts or your fellow man in peace and in harmony. That's the reason why many of us have been set apart from the group. You know, we can't mix up when you're being separated to do something divine and in this fashion. So you have to be pulled away from the group. And many brothers and sisters are not going to like that. And they're not going to understand why you have been placed in isolation. So therefore, your physical body can be rebuilt, and it's going to be rebuilt off of truth, and it's going to be rebuilt off of understanding. So therefore, you can fly high and you can go ahead and show them the light the way that it was meant to. But you must walk the path first. You must save yourself first. So, like they say, we can bring you to the water, but we can't make you drink, but we can show you the way. And the light to the path is not going to be there forever. So let's go ahead and get to the last part. And once again, brothers and sisters, please like, share, subscribe to the channel, donate to the Third Temple English Church of England, because for us to be able to do this great divine work, we need your assistance, because without you, there is no me. For us to be able to maintain this information, to bring it out there to the forefront of you, we need your assistance. And that's part about being in a group or a congregation of brothers and sisters, or those who come from the same place, that we help each other. We look out for each other. So it's time for us to start looking out for each other, especially those of you who are ready to come into the truth of understanding who you are, going back to time immemorial. And this time immemorial we speak about is the year 1189 in the Kingdom of England. Okay. Now we're on the Pew Research Center page, and this is imperative for brothers and sisters who claim to, you know, they believe in God, and they prefer to, you know, fellowship alone. That's cool and that's fine and all, but you're still supposed to be part of a congregation. See, I still fellowship alone. I do a lot on my own by myself when it comes down to my spiritual practices. But I also know that I'm supposed to be part of a congregation, a group of believers who believe in the same thing, to keep the continuity and the identity of the people going on. Because it's only just me as an individual. But to keep the image and our ways of life going, we need others. So it have to be many of us. And that's what the church is for. The church is there to keep the identity of the people going on. What's you see out here today is abstract, but it can help you if you know how to use it. All right, so let's continue. It says religions, relationship to happiness, civic engagement, and health around the world. In the United States and other countries, participation in congregation is a key factor. So we're not just saying that to do this just to be doing it, but it's mostly for your overall health. We're meant to be happy, but most people are searching for happiness in all of the wrong places. When you didn't realize that you just going to church can actually help boost your morale and self-esteem. But the issue today is many brothers and sisters are feeling jaded and left out in the dark and feel that they've been lied to about religion, and in a way they're for real. That's their feelings aren't wrong. The way they feel is actually pretty valid, because it was at the time that I was just like that. And also too came to understand that the issue wasn't truly the so-called church. The issue was those who were in positions of leadership within these establishments, who were perverting the word, who was perverting the truth, and were utilizing the foundation of the church for all of their illegal, erroneous, backwards, placing people in bondage, etc. That's what they're doing. But that's not what it was originally meant for. It was meant to heal the people. It was meant to bring the people in together in unison, and be able to heal us all together as one. So therefore we can go out with that energy and spread that amongst the world and clean this place up mentally, physically, and spiritually. And since now people don't truly go to church to get that truth in them, look at your community, look at the family center, everything seemed to be broken, dilapidated, and in disarray. And many people wonder, where did it start from? Well, it starts at home. And the first place that most people get their understanding of home and how to engage with themselves and others historically was the church. So let's go ahead and get an idea of what's happening and taking place and how we can correct these ills. And that's the reason why we say, for those of you who recognize yourself within us here at the Third Temple English Church of England, to come home. For those of you who used to be or felt that you wasn't getting what you need, is because you must participate. You are the heir that gives this church life. So heirs of the body needs heir. All right. It says people who are active in religious congregations, and I'm going to show you, as you see the chart, people who are active in religious congregations tend to be happier and more civically engaged than either religiously unaffiliated adults or inactive members of religious groups, according to a new Pew Research Center analysis of survey data from the United States and more than 24 other countries. And this was in pause. So this was done back in 2019. It is 2025. And as we see, look at the chart, because I'm not going to go through this whole page, but I recommend for those of you who are on here, take a look at it. It says actively religious people tend to be happier. It says Mexico, unaffiliated, 61%, inactive, 64%, active, 71%. So 71% of the people in Mexico who attend church, who are part of a congregation, are happier than 61% of people who say they believe in God, but is not part of it, but not affiliated. And then 64% of the people who don't believe in God, which means inactive. And 71% who are active, who believe in God. And I hope I got that right in regards to the unaffiliated and inactive. Unaffiliated, excuse me. Okay, so unaffiliated religious, okay, that's cool. So unaffiliated, those who believe in but don't go. Inactive, those who don't go. And then 71% of those who are active. All right, so that's what that means. But we're going to go to the United States. Also, too, we're probably going to look at United Kingdom, if they got them on here, which is historically Great Britain. So we just want to check and see how everyone. Okay, so they don't have the United Kingdom, but they have the United States. In the United States, look how bad these numbers are. This is letting you know, like I said, how godless this country have literally turned. So it says 25% for active and inactive who are happy, but 36% of people who are going to church or part of a congregation are happier. So there's something to this. Now, the numbers should be higher, but then again, I know why they're not high, because of, the corporations here have these people here on the chokehold, but it's showing you that at least 36% of the people still believe in God and are happy. So to get these numbers up requires more people being affiliated, more people believing in God and actually being part of a congregation. All right, so let's continue reading. It says, religiously active people also tend to smoke and drink less. So those are those bad habits. So actively, religiously, people who are part of a congregation, they smoke less and they drink less. But it says, but they are not healthier in terms of exercise frequency and rates of obesity. Okay, so that's for something else we can talk about. Nor in most countries are highly religious people more likely to rate themselves as being in very good overall health. Excuse me, though the US is among the possible exceptions. Many previous studies have found positive associations between religion and health in the United States. Researchers have shown, for example, that Americans who regularly attend religious services tend to live longer. You hear this? Those of you who regularly attend religious services tend to live longer. Those of you who say you believe in God, who don't go to church, chances are you're not gonna live as long compared to your counterparts who are in the church. And those of you who don't believe in God, I can't say. But for what we can see based off of statistics is showing you that you have a higher chance of having a better, happier life being part of a religious congregation. And like I'm explaining to those of you who are coming to be part of the Third Temple English Church of England, you're going to be not only learning what they know and should know in the so-called Protestant churches, because that's what they are. They're Protestant churches, but you're going to know the truth going all the way back to the time of ancient antiquity in regards to science, the science, biology, cosmology, the hidden arts, etc., that our predecessors knew and wanted to maintain. So therefore, we can keep ourselves operating in a healthy fashion, to keep a healthy body, to keep a healthy body politic. So for us to be able to even keep a healthy body politic, aka a healthy state of being or a healthy kingdom, the people themselves must be healthy. And the only way for us to be able to have a healthy people for a healthy kingdom, it requires intelligence, it requires wisdom, it requires knowledge, and it also requires having a strong moral compass. So therefore, we don't lose our morality and start operating like how you see people out here in the West who don't care about the families, who don't care about the children, who don't care about the men, who don't care about the women, who only really care about their own selfish, devious wants and needs. And they're not even truly needs, it's just actually wants. All right, so let's continue. It says, other studies have focused on neural health benefits, such as how religion may help breast cancer patients cope with stress. And that's, once again, for many of you who are dealing with depression or dealing with stressful situations, being part of a congregation, those who love you, who think like you, who are in the same belief system, will help you. They will help you overcome all of these issues that we're going through. They will also help fill in these voids that a lot of us are missing because of broken homes, So we need to start getting ourselves back in the proper state of mind. We need to heal the body. It says other studies have focused once again on neural benefits, which I just spoke about, that have not found on other hand, excuse me, there are also studies that have not found a robust relationship between religion and better health in the US. And even some studies have shown a negative relationship, such as higher rates of obesity amongst highly religious Americans. Why just keep okay? And finally, this is the Pew Research Center talking about how folks who are religiously inclined and part of a congregation are more involved in civic life, and those who aren't actually part of a religious, or excuse me, those who aren't religiously affiliated or go, or who are but don't participate in congregations, how they're also not civically inclined to participate in how civics or politics operate. This is important because for those of you who so-called say your God-given rights and things of that nature, well, you must be part of a congregation, who can also help support, your so-called God-given rights, because you need to be able to prove where these God-given rights come from. You can't just say like, well, I believe and don't have any proof where your belief come from, or all this and that, especially knowing that the society that you're a part of, historically, these people were all part of a congregation. Historically, everyone who was part of the so-called United States founding and those who were here prior, because we know that the Kingdom of England or the colonies themselves were a church state. So everyone was part of a congregation. So let's go ahead and read what it says. Is that our nuns, and this is January 24, 2024, are NONES or nuns less involved in civic life than people who identify with a religion. It says survey data shows that religious nuns, or folks who don't go to church, are on average less civically and politically engaged than people who identify with a religion. But the differences are often modest and tend to be concentrated among the subset of nuns who describe the religion as nothing in particular. Indeed, by several measures, atheists and agnostics are about as civically and politically engaged as U.S. adults who identify with a religion. It's often just the nothing in particular group that stands out for having relatively low levels of civic behavior, such as voting and volunteering. Why is this important? Traditionally, people who are involved with U.S. religious congregations have tended to be involved with all sorts of other organizations and activities, from PTAs and community groups to voting in elections. This had led some observers to wonder, could the rise of the religious nuns, those people who don't believe in God or people going to church and etc., in the United States effectively diminish Americans' participation in civic and community life? Put another way, could the decline of religion leave the U.S. with fewer volunteers, community activists, and civic leaders? Pause. And to answer their question, yes. Since the fall of folks, since the decline of religious participation or folks going to church, and now you are and have these people who are quote unquote more spiritually inclined, you're seeing the decay of our community. You're seeing a decay of civic participation, or people participating in other activities outside of civic groups or outside the religious establishment. To sum it up, they're not participating in anything that actually doesn't equate to entertainment. So as you notice today, that the modern people in the West, they only operate or only move off of entertainment. If it's not something that's entertaining, they're not going to participate in it. Other than that, if it's something that deals with their livelihood on the political level, they don't want to have no say about it. So it's almost like they rather go the way that the wind blows, or they rather, like I said, take the path of least resistance, even if that path of least resistance end them into a ditch. All right, let's continue. It says, others have contended that the casual arrow may point in the other direction, that the decline of religion may itself be a symptom of a broader American disengagement from institutions and organizations. According to this line of reasoning, the decline of religion is just one manifestation of disaffection from and loss of trust in fellow citizens and institutions of all kinds. Pause. And the reason why is because of these institutions aren't actually telling people the truth. These institutions are only parading themselves as being benevolent, and in reality, they're actually sheep's and wolf's clothing. They're robbing the people. They're stealing from the people. The Most High or the Creator gives everything freely and in abundance. But unfortunately, since these hijackers took over the truth and now starting to make us actually pay for it, we have not been able to get to the point of proper understanding to come together as a unified group to dispel all of these errors that has been plaguing not only our society in reality, but others from the far. Because you have so many people who are coming over here to learn the ways of who we are, but what is actually doing is destroying who they are in the process of them trying to learn who we are and live off our virtues. Because now we're not even living off our virtues. We're living off of entertainment. We're living off of corporations. You're living off of policies and procedures from folks who created this social political construct that you have now subjected yourself into, because you, instead of you getting the intelligence you need to come up out of here by going back to who you were prior to this usurpation, you instead are following these idols, or when we call these false idols, these celebrities who got you living a life of an entertainment. So you're not actually learning from God, you're learning from false idols or entertainers. And that's the reason why these households are breaking. That's the reason why you see these children are being raised by tablets. That's the reason why you're seeing these mothers not actually doing what they're supposed to do. That's the reason why you're seeing these fathers are treating these households the way they're treating, or not even there at all, because of everyone is going according to their own free will. And your own free will is leaving you in damnation, is putting you in a place of forgetfulness, and being in the place of forgetfulness is going to have you in perpetual bondage. Let's continue. And so it says, and it's beyond the scope of this report to definitively answer these big questions about the impact of the decline of organized religion on U.S. civic life, or to sort out how much of religious decline is explained by a broader rejection of institutions and organizations. But we have collected lots of data in the recent years on the connections between religion and civic engagement, and this chapter briefly reviews it. All right, so I'm going to go through some of this quickly so that way I can just sum it up, because I want you to understand that when you start looking at the numbers and you start paying attention to your walking reality, you will see that we all from are suffering from forgetfulness in regards to how to conduct ourselves, and not only in a civic level but also in our spiritual level. And we must be doing these things in tandem with each other, because we're not just out here living by ourselves. The point of life is people. The point of existence is people, And so if you're the only one think the way that you do, then that technically ostracizes or isolates you from the group. And right now, everyone right now is literally considered strangers amongst their peers, because everyone have their own separate or segregated mindset. And the segregated mindset is not part of what? The body politic of the king, because what King Edgar set up is we cannot be divided in mind. We all must be on the same mind, on the same accord. And this is why we say when you come to church, you all learn how to be all on the same accord. So for me to find my people, for you to truly find your people, you must go back to your religious establishment, where those folks who have the proper moral compass can know how to conduct themselves amongst others who think just like you, because the law is not always written on everyone's heart. It's written on some of our hearts, but it's not written on everyone's heart. And that's the reason why we have the written law. So therefore, we can remember, because we forgot. And that's why it was written down, because it knew that we were going to forget. And so now that you are in position where you can remember, it is up to you to do what you know you need to do with this information. Either you can use it as a spectacle, as a form of entertainment, unfortunately, which many of you are doing today, or you can utilize this as a form of enlightenment to start invigorating your neurons, to start getting your RNA and DNA moving, to start getting you in the position of actually transforming to be who you're supposed to be. So therefore, you can help usher in heaven on earth, because right now we all are living in a complete hell in someone else's nightmare. And so when we sum this up, it says, on many measures, religious nuns are less involved in civic life. Overall, 17% of religious nuns say they volunteered for organization or association in the past year, 10 percentage points lower than the share of religiously affiliated people who say this. So they're telling you that folks who are religiously affiliated actually participate in the charitable activities or volunteers. People who aren't religiously inclined or set to or part of a congregation, they themselves aren't part of any type of organizations of volunteer work. They don't volunteer. And I know this from I've seen it with my own eyes. A lot of people who I know who claim, quote unquote, believe in God, they don't volunteer to do anything. And there's a lot of them take. And part of balancing out the scales is you have to give. You have to give back. So to help up your spirit, to make you become lighter, start giving back, because you have been taken for so much, and now you in a state of depression because you got so much on you, instead of actually letting things go. And when you come to church, you guess what do they say? You put your problem in God's hands, so you can actually let these things go. And unfortunately, since that page kept messing up, I'm just going to read the last part through the AI overview. And like it says, religion and civic life are intertwined. So religion and civic, church and state, they're intertwined. So there's no true separation of church and state. For those of you who think there is, it's not. There is no true separation of church and state. All right. So religion and civic life are intertwined, with religion often playing a significant role in shaping civic engagement, social solidarity, and even political discourse. So the reason why you're having issues within your society today is because there is no religion that's keeping everybody together on the same mindset. Everyone believing their own beliefs. You got these folks out here who are quote unquote spiritual, but have no true foundation in their so-called spirituality, where others can actually be part of that within the congregation, where you're actually out there doing something to help shape your civic life. And just saying like, oh, I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm not worried about anybody else. Like, so I'm focused on me, 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 me. There's a saying that no man is an island. So there's no such thing as you just focusing on yourself or you just being me, 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 me. What you do actually affects everybody else. And the fact that you're a part of the so-called specific society, you actually have a social contract that you must uphold. Otherwise, you get what? Like how they do in the church, you get excommunicated or you get removed from out of being that society because you're not doing anything to help that society. In this case, if you was a quote unquote a resident who was nothing more than a taxpayer, if you stop paying your taxes, if you stop actually paying for what you got to pay for, what eventually happens, you become homeless. And if you become homeless, you become what? You become an outcast society, which means, like I said, you can no longer even start participating in many things that society have set up for their citizens because you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, part of your social contract for you to actually engage and be part of it or affiliated of that group. All right. And let's go ahead and remove, excuse me, let's go ahead and read some more. And then I'm going ahead and cut you brothers and sisters loose so you can enjoy the rest of your Sabbath. And it says here, a more detailed look in the relationship. Civic engagement with social solidarity. Religious institutions and communities can foster social connections and a sense of belonging, which can translate into greater civic engagement. So, for instance, those of you who are English heirs, this is the reason why you must come back to the English church. Why? Because the English church is for the English people. All of these other churches aren't for the English people. Like I said, Mount Calvary Baptist Church ain't saying Mount Calvary Baptist Church for the English people, or Mount Zion Baptist Church, or the African Methodist, New Hampshire, etc. These aren't English churches. These will be considered dissenters, or these will be considered Protestant churches who came away from the original church state, which was the English church, because the Church of England was the one that was actually running the joint over here, but it was hijacked by the Jesuits and the Roman Catholic Church. And that's the reason why all of these Protestant churches came in existence, is because they was coming away from those who were trying to put them back in bondage. But in the process of them coming out of that, they lost their connection, understanding of the king. So they don't even know who they come from when it comes down to a nationality. They only understand who they are from an abstract point of view, but not from a civic point of view. And that's why nationality is important. And that's why you utilize your genealogy to tie you back to your people. And once you tie yourself back to your people, you know what nation they're part of. And then now you know what religion you're supposed to be operating or utilizing for you to be able to inherit what you feel that you're supposed to be inheriting from your predecessors. And it says, people of faith are often more likely to volunteer, donate to charity, and participate in community activities. Exactly. So most people who I know who aren't religiously inclined or a part of a congregation, they don't volunteer once again, they don't donate to charity, and they don't participate in community activities. So at the end of the day, you got to start understanding who are your people. These aren't my people who can't volunteer their time, who don't want to donate to charitable events or activities, and don't want to participate in the community. These what we call freeloaders. You don't want freeloaders. We don't want leeches. We don't want users. And unfortunately, this is what's happening to our community. This is what's happening to our people. Our people have now turned to be, which we like to say, consumers. You're just consuming like a leech, like a parasite, but you're not giving anything back in return. And this is going to affect us in the long run because you have to balance the scales. You must give back. You must give back and must engage and be part of the society that you're benefiting off of. All right. So let's go to the next one. And it says, Uh, Religion can also provide a moral framework and sense of purpose that motivates individuals to act on their values, to act on their values in civic life. So as you can see, most people who I'm starting to understand and notice even out here today, and I'm quite sure many of you who are going to be listening to this video can see that folks who actually don't go to church or are not part of a religious society or affiliated religious congregation seem to have a misguided moral compass. You know, they're willing to do anything and everything to make them feel good, but don't care about the morality of their actions. They don't care about what light it's going to put them into. They don't care about who this is going to affect, whether it's their loved ones, whether it's those who are going to come from them afterwards, whether it's their community as a whole, whether the group of people you come from. So this is very important because as you as an individual who are part of the body politic, what you do does affect the group. That's the reason why you have to understand why laws were created, why policies and procedures were created, is to keep the identity of the group intact. And if you break those rules, if you break those commandments, etc., you're going to hurt the group as a whole, which is going to eventually cause our demise. 2, political participation. Religious groups can influence political debates and policy decisions by mobilizing their members on issues they care about. Exactly. So you need a multitude sometimes to have your voice heard, because having just one individual speaking on it, it won't normally reach the ears of the people who it needs to reach. So once you got others who, who believe the same thing you do, especially when it comes down to an issue that's going to affect the group, you need to get everyone who's part of that group to mobilize, to come together, to talk about it. So therefore they can have their voices heard. And it's not just coming from an individual, but it's coming from a standpoint of view that's affecting a multitude of people. All right. Religious leaders can play a significant role in shaping public opinion and encouraging political participation. Once again, as me being Archbishop for the Third Temple English Church of England, as well me being the head of my household, the Noble House of Belmont, it is my obligation for me to actually come out here and be an advocate for the English people, as well for the Crown of England, for the Kingdom of England, for the long lost descendants of the Kingdom of Jerusalem, for the long lost descendants of Great Britain, etc. Why? Is because I understand what's going on. I understand or comprehend the information that our predecessors or our ancestors have passed down to us for generations and generations. I understand how this system was created. I comprehend many things on many different levels and things that many of you will never comprehend this lifetime. But hopefully one day you do, if you decide to walk into the beautiful light, come into the light, come to the truth. Like I said, and the only way for you to come to the truth is you have to accept yourself, read yourself. That's why the natal chart is important, but we'll talk about that in another video. And then it says 3, civic values and moral compass. Religion can instill civic values such as justice, compassion, and the importance of community. This is why, once again, like I say, be part of a religious society is going to help you tremendously, especially those of you who are English heirs and descendants from the Kingdom of England, Great Britain. As you coming back into the English church, like I said, you're going to be able to have that connection, that harmony, that understanding, that community that we're all looking for, that village. We want to be able to know that we're part of something that others can actually be part of, where we don't feel like we're slaving ourselves away to something that's systematically been created to keep us in perpetual bondage. That is not what the Kingdom of England was created for. Like I said, that was not what the church was supposed to be originally created for, and especially the English church. And unfortunately, those who claim to be the walkers of righteousness, I apologize for those who have been led astray, but the time has come when you have to let a lot of that heaviness go and start accepting and seeing the truth when you see it, and come away from all of that, come away from that pain, because the thing is, they want you to harper on that. They want you to stay in that frequency. But when you're like, say, you know what, I accept it. You know what, I'm just not going to allow me be put into a position like this ever again. So you cut those branches off. You cut off all of those things that cause you to be what you are now, but allow you to be able to embrace something new. So all that pain, all that trauma that we experience and stuff like that from bad relationships, cut it off. The people who was using us, because of they not knowing who they are, forgive them for they know not what they do. That doesn't mean I got to keep you in my life. It's time for us to cut you off. Why? Because we're moving to something grand. We're moving to something a lot lighter. We're moving to something that was set and made for us to be able to exist in peace and harmony, where we can actually talk to each other. We can actually, like I said, speak out our differences, our disagreements, but knowing that we're not going to lose the love, or we're not going to want to go and try to be with somebody else or something else because of we had a mere disagreement, that a conversation with either third party mediators can come in, or that we can actually go to our leader in regards to, like I said, the head of the people, our king, the king's councils, our mother's councils, the father councils, whatever that we have as a people, to keep the identity of the group together, to keep the families together, to make sure that everybody is operating in tandem, in peace and harmony. They said, well, there's no harm taking place within the family structure. There's no harm or anything's taking place within our nucleus, which we call the church. There's none of these things are taking place within the kingdom. But the only way for that to be able to be done, everybody must check themselves, read yourself, know who you are. So therefore, we can work out, or you can work out those deficiencies within you. We can show you the way how to work out those deficiencies. But if you try to walk this path by yourself in the wilderness, you will have a hard time. Now, we're not saying you can't do it, but we're telling you it's going to be hard when you're supposed to be finding yourself back to the group. If you like what you're hearing so far, once again, brothers and sisters, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, you're not going to hear this information anywhere else unless you're a member from the Third Temple English Church of England, because we are those long lost English heirs. We are those angels. We are those Anglo-Saxon Berbers who have come and returned to find our long lost kinfolk, the chosen ones, those who are being called the so-called Hebrews. When you understand that Hebrew actually means those who crossed over, migrants, immigrant, etc., those who came across the river, it only pretty much is talking about you Berbers who came from over there and came over here. And as you continue to keep watching and listening, you will come to understand that that's exactly what it is. And the reason why you haven't been able to move further is because no one came to bring you the civic side the way that the English people need to have it, unless you, once again, get it from the King's Bench, from the Third Temple English Church of England. And we're going to go to point 4. Excuse me. I finished 3. Religious institutions can provide a space for moral reflection, dialogue, fostering sense of shared purpose and civic responsibility. So, like I said before, your moral compass be able to be guided in the right direction when you come back into the church. You won't be seeing our sisters out here selling themselves like the daughters of the merchants. You won't see our sons out here doing human trafficking, like the sons of merchants. All of these things will come to a halt, but we can't protect you outside of the English church or the Kingdom of England, because we have our rules. We have what Rome sees and set to make sure that we're protected, because we have treaties to do what? How to treat each other. So we have what they see to recognize us as English people. But if you're not who we are, you're not part of our body politic, you're not here, we can't protect you outside of our law. You have to use whatever you think that your protection come in with these people. And unfortunately, a lot of brothers and sisters have been led astray with that thinking. And hopefully those of you who are moving forward start coming to the understanding that this information has to be concrete, factual information. It has to be something that can't be moved. And one thing that we know so far that has been standing the test of time is religion. It's been here before you, and it's going to be here after you. So it's better for you to get in line, and I mean in proper alignment with the right one, with those right people who are teaching the right way to do the right thing. And in this case, the teachers of righteousness. And it says, 4, while religion can be a positive force in civic life, it also can be a source of division and conflict, which is true, because many different religions or many people's beliefs, they may be in a group of folks who may not believe the same thing. This is the issue, especially when it comes down to you live in a society with many mixed mindsets, with people come from many different backgrounds, and then you try to stand on your belief and what you think it is. It will cause friction. It will cause rift. This is the reason why in the Kingdom of England was a church state. So therefore, we didn't have these problems. Everybody had to believe the same thing, or at least knew the same thing. But when you do it through intelligence or intellect, there will be no reason for folks to be fighting or bickering, because we know that the information was right. It was something like, say, you can utilize the scientific method and verify and get the same results. It's only those who was intellectually defunct who couldn't understand, or would be putting us in a position of chaos or disease, is because of not being able to teach, or for them not being able to understand. And that's why there's levels to this. That's the reason why everyone's not going to get this, and we understand that, but we still have to do this work. All right, it says religious beliefs can sometimes be used to justify discrimination or exclusion, undermining civic values and inequality and inclusivity. That's true. And once again, that's because of the difference of mindsets. It's important to recognize the diversity of religious beliefs and the potential for conflict and misunderstanding when religion is involved in civic affairs. And that's the reason why, in my opinion, why you should be only dealing with the religion or being part of people who are on that same mindset as you. Like I said, don't mix up with folks who have different ideologies as you do. Why? Because it's going to cause conflicts, it's going to cause confusions, and then it's going to cause a hindrance and preventing you doing what you need to do. And as we can see what's going on here in the West or in America, due to the fact that the people moral compass or their belief in God or the lack of believing in God is causing a rift within their political domain, because it's all based off of it's not based off of reality. It's not based off of nature. The social political construct of the United States have created is coming down because it's not real. It was an agenda that was created to keep people in subservient positions. So therefore, the agenda of those who created it can continue to keep proliferating and cause mayhem all over the world. And in this case, as we can see, is actually causing the destruction of many cultures and many different people. And finally says the role of civil religion 5. The concept of civil religion refers to the shared beliefs, values, and rituals that unite a society, even though those beliefs are not explicitly religious in nature. Pause. So once again, a civil religion, this is like a church state. If everybody was on the same accord, we will be getting further. There will be no room for debates or no need for debates. This is the reason why no one is getting anywhere. It's the reason why we constantly keep living this circular line, because they want you to be in a perpetual state of bondage. So they rather just give you crumbs of the truth, but mix the truth up with falsehood, and then start giving everybody the idea that, oh, you can believe this, oh, you can believe that, oh, you can have it what you want, oh, you can have what you want, but you're all supposed to be existing in the same space together. The laws of physics says that objects vibrating on different frequencies cannot exist in the same space. So with that being said, let's say, for instance, those of us who are in the Third Temple English Church of England, and we historically known that this territory was the Kingdom of England, when we start going back to the proper understanding of who we are as the English Church via the intellectual movement, we'll be able to start bringing peace into this space, into the space that we encompass. For those who actually aren't on that same mind space, to be able to understand this intellectual religious divine movement, they're going to be repelled. In this case, they're going to be set apart from us scientifically, energetically, because of that's the frequency of how we're operating. Therefore, so we can keep us living in an ecosystem symbiotically. Because like you see, light and dark is always going to exist. There's never going to be a time that there's not going to exist. So you just need to see and know what side of the spectrum that you're trying to be upon. You can be Caesar, which is Rome, or you can be God. And God's people was in the church, and we know our church is a church state, and Caesar's people is not a church state. It's just a state, but it technically used to be a church state, but it broke away. So now they're just a state that's underneath beliefs, policies, procedures that constantly continue to keep changing. And these people who are underneath the state aren't part of the church. They're not doing any type of civic activities. They're not doing any type of religious charitable activities. So they're not doing anything that technically God's people will be doing to help protect God's people. And that's the reason why they're underneath the state. And the state, we know the folks are considered specifically dead because of their actions and them actually not being part of the church itself. And when I mean the church itself, I mean a religious establishment, or in this case, a religious society. And for those of you who are the descendants of the Kingdom of England, Great Britain, you know that we are a church state. You know that based on our laws, that for you to be considered a free man, you had to be part of the church. Other than that, anything else you consider chattel property of those who brought you into the kingdom. So with that being said, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. We love you. Today is April 13, 2975 of the Berber calendar, which is equivalent to the 2025 Gregorian calendar. I'd like to go ahead and give honor to our King Clifford Jefferson once again from the Kingdom of England, from the Royal House of Plantagenet, to our Queen Miss Jordan from the Royal House of Godwinson, to the heirs, to the trustees, to my bishops, co-adjutors, as well to the mothers, the fathers, the trustees, the loyal heirs, the loyal subjects within the kingdom, to the remnants, and those of you who are on a righteous path, who are trying to find your way home. This message is for you. And for those of you who are intellectually inclined to understand and comprehend what it is they have come to bring, it is your obligation and duty for you to be the lighthouse, to be the pillar for your family, for you to step up, for you to know and be recognized as the chosen one for your family. And you walk that proudly and be happy and know that you are at the right place at the right time. So with that being said, we love you. Walk in peace and harmony. Till we see you next time. I'm out.